It helps if I hit the correct button. But hello! We are back. Transporter Room 3, a new... We've been renovated. Which is good, which is the good times. But we are back. We're going to discuss Season 3, Episodes 1 and 2 today. But who is the we? Well, I am Natalie, also known as Dark Aardvark. You are on my Twitch channel, so I won't promote you to that. Or maybe you're on my YouTube channel, I guess. Either way. You can find me and keep up with me at Twitter at dark_aardvark, the best place to keep up with me. And all that I do, and I am joined tonight with Hope and Robin. Hope, a little bit about yourself and where we can find you if you would like.
Great. You can find me on Twitter at HopeTracy71 and here, obviously. And Monday nights on the Lady Saito's channel, where I play Why Not? Wild Magic Sorcerer. As far as experience with Star Trek, I watched it as a child with my family, and then a little bit more as a teenager with my first best friend of high school. And I was in a Star Trek fan club for one meeting. That was pretty good. And now I'm watching it in series as Natalie watches it for the first time, and it's actually really fun this way.
All right, yeah, watching it in order purposely for the first time.
What? No reruns? Randomly?
I mean, we could randomly assign. That'd be weird, though.
That might be confusing.
Yes, might be
confusing.
Don't do it. Indeed. Don't do it. Robin advises against. Speaking of Robin, a little bit about yourself. And
sorry.
Where we can find you? So, no,
you can find me on Twitter, Robin, they, them. You can find me on Twitter at KaikaC. You can also find me on Milady Saito's channel Wednesday nights and Thursday nights and Saturday afternoons in various campaigns. Once Upon a Leap on Wednesday, Azure Kingdom run by Aniki Tony on Thursday, and Tales of Sendo on Saturday. My experience with Star Trek is kind of like Hope's. Watched it when I was a kid growing up with my parents, off and on. But then I did do a full watch through from beginning to end with my roommate about a year and a half ago. And I've been really entertained by Natalie's watching it for the first time. And finally started watching Lower Decks, which, as I understand it, is the stone that started this whole avalanche, Star Trek avalanche rolling for Natalie. And that has also been very fun.
You are correct. And I was remiss in covering my Star Trek history, and that is exactly it. I watched the first season of Lower Decks, and loved it and wanted to understand the jokes. So here we are, into the third season of it now. Just makes sense to tie Transporter Room 3 seasons to the Star Trek The Next Generation seasons, I think. And tonight we are... Sorry, I'm a little distracted because I forgot to send the We Are Live tweet before we went live. I take a week off and I forget everything. So there we go. Let's get into Season 3, Episode 1. It's titled Evolution, which
new opening.
Yeah,
new opening.
I am a fan of the new opening.
New colors, different ship
colors
direction.
On the L cars. There's a fancy new ceiling in the on the bridge. Mm-hmm. It's good times.
New uniforms.
Yeah, Shut Up Wesley's in a legit uniform and is in a.
Which still manages to look like his sweaters.
Yes, it's got a little bit of like...
These are the new wool uniforms that they're in now, as opposed to...
Not everybody's in them yet.
Not everybody? Oh.
No, just Wesley's in it, and it reminds me of like... like an uncircumcised penis kind of thing. Like the, I don't know. Whatever. Of course, I had to go there.
It's fun.
Welcome back. I do love. There's a lot of pretend turbulence in this episode, and
I can't unsee that now, Natalie.
I'm sorry. I should have waited until they were done with these uniforms. I love the pretend turbulence stuff. The like, I don't know. I love it. Unironically, it's great. But the best part was the doctor, the new old doctor, Dr. Crusher. There's a part of me, just like the storyteller part of me, that's a little sad that like the Dr. P leaving was like all off screen, because there could have been fun character moments in there.
How did Beverly look shorter now? They were shooting her differently. Before they were going a little low and like sort of looking up to her. Now like all the shots in this episode were like from the down, so she looked tiny.
Maybe that's why she left for a year. It's just tired of being. I don't know. I hadn't noticed that. That's interesting though.
Yeah, I know my roommate mostly just commented that her hair is definitely a lot shorter, at least now. But
it is. It looked a little. I couldn't tell if it was like a wig or just like the 80s style
right
of it. I'm not sure. Anyway, she's back, and that's great. And we jump in right off the gate with a mommy son storyline weaved throughout. And we find out we get an age. I think we've had an age for Wesley before, but we get one now, 17. Which I mean, I don't know. I don't know why that like stuck with me so much, because he was kind of just a nebulous kid before, to me anyway. Maybe they did mention it.
Not in any like important way, I don't think.
Yeah. I don't know. One of the funny things about this episode that I find, I don't know, that feels in some ways very true is the weird mixed messaging you get when you're a teenager of like, you need to study and do X, Y, and Z, but also have fun, and you shouldn't be doing.
Kid, enjoy your life.
And it's like, well, sure. I don't. Which one do you want me to do?
which one's correct?
Which one's correct?
It was. Aside from the realism, like you were just talking about, of it, it was nice too to see like. I mean, it's always been upfront that he's, as is used in this episode, the Wunderkind. But it felt nice to kind of have it really be addressed head on, I guess.
So directly.
Yeah, so directly. Maybe a little too directly, but it was nice to have it like. I guess it was nice to have it be a big deal instead of, oh yeah, of course this kid's smart, I guess.
And I like the timing with his mother coming back.
Mm-hmm.
So like it's one of those arriving home after a long journey sort of things. Like, you were away from your mother for a year. Let's evaluate what's changed since then, and that's sort of like a good time to recognize that someone is or different, or might have different needs than could have been seen from familiarity before.
For sure. It'd be a big change. Like, I can't imagine being in a professional work environment 24/7 at age 16. You know? Yeah, that would be weird. I do just real at the top of this episode, it relates to Dr. Crusher not being there when they have the little exchange between Picard and Dr. Crusher, where it's Picard says, "I know how difficult it was for you being away," and I'm gonna use the actress's name. Gates gives a look, because it seemed to me to be like rooted in like, it was just kind of like, I know that was a whole thing. Like, there's just so much tiredness and like the I don't know. Maybe I'm just reading into it because I know the backstory, but it looked a little bit like Gates and Dr. Crusher's like response to that question had very similar very similar sort of moods to them, which I enjoyed. You had something, Robin?
Yeah, I was just gonna say on a lighter note than maybe than in some ways the very real feelings that Gates McFadden may have had about that question. I did just because I love seeing Picard feeling awkward, and I did really love it when Crusher's like, has he ever been in love? And Picard's like, like,
I don't know how to answer that.
I don't know how to answer these questions. Can't we go back to talking about Shakespeare or something?
Yes. It is one thing I do like about Dr. Crusher is like she brings out some Picard awkwardness in fun ways. So it is good to have her back for.
Because he always acts out later when he's made awkward. He always has to go be grand.
He has to go a little. It's the most like alpha male mentality Picard ever gets. It's like I was embarrassed. I have a terrible Picard voice. Never mind. I'm not even going to try. I was embarrassed earlier, so now I need to be a little saucy. Sort of thing to Picard, which I like. Everybody, characters with flaws are good things, and that's kind of a fun one. I also like in this episode that they call them the food slots instead of the replicators. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I agree. I hadn't really thought about it until you said something, but then I was watching it. I watched the episode a second time, and there's the Picard delivers a line where he's like, says something about the food slots, and he has this weird intonation about it, like that's not what they're usually called. Now. Yeah. Like I wonder if Gates McFadden forgot what they were called and just delivered the line wrong, and they just kept it for some reason.
That could be, yeah. That's interesting.
Because I agree, it was very like food slot. I mean, like...
it amused me, and
it felt very like that's what they would call them in Futurama,
Yeah. Indeed. We have the
one other small thing I wanted to point out with the Crusher and Picard. The kind of one of their interactions is one of the things that I like, and is kind of I sort of like the way it's done is Picard sort of makes the reference to Wesley being like his father, but the way that they talk about it, like again, like there's sort of this allusion to the fact that Picard and Crusher have like an extensive history that we don't really know about, which I think is I like the way that kind of gets laid in throughout the series, that like they knew each other before they both served on the Enterprise. And I don't know, like I from a sort of creating a character standpoint, like I like that sort of thing where it's like we're going to hint at the fact that like these people have a past history that you as an audience don't like necessarily get to see. Like they've had lives beyond your like what's on screen kind of.
Yeah, we've been given the names of the tropes, but there aren't any, the story isn't told.
Yeah, and it is nice. I think in the first episode of this show I talked about how it was nice that they had a mix, because I think there was Picard and Dr. Crusher knew each other. I thought there was another. Oh, Troy and Riker also knowing each other. That's a nice. It's a nice way to make characters feel like Robin was saying, that they exist outside of the story that you're seeing now, and let you jump in.
The only time we got to see that with Pulaski was with Riker's dad.
Yeah.
I think that's the only bit of backstory we ever get.
Possibly. Well, that and she makes real good soup.
It doesn't like transporters.
And doesn't like transporters, which I'll never give up on the soup thing. In fact, yeah, I don't know. I kind of want to release like Dr. P's famous soup brand or something. Probably want to not name it Dr. P's and then soup. But that's a problem for the marketing team. Right now we're talking about this episode. There's another little tidbit of information that kind of I always like to get. It was like 79 or 80 years since a Starfleet ship has had a malfunction, which is a pretty damn good record.
Yeah, I think it's a ship-wide malfunction, I think, specifically.
Oh, okay. But I mean, still, though.
Oh, yeah, because why would they have engineers on board if they
well,
didn't?
Yeah, well, I mostly just note it because, like, in the very next episode, you find out that the Artemis, the ship that was carrying the colonists, apparently had a guidance system malfunction.
Yes.
And I'm like, wait a minute.
But that was 90 years ago.
Oh, that's true. I guess that's true. That was 90 years ago. Maybe that was the one.
That's why I like watching the episodes the day of. I remember that stuff. Yeah, the Artemis was the last time.
Until they need it for a plot device again.
Yeah.
But yes, Paul Stubbs. This guy.
Oh, is that the doctor? Yeah.
Yeah,
Dr.
just the astrophysicist guy. Played by Ken Jenkins.
Ken Jenkins.
There can't only be one of those events happening. It's a big galaxy.
It's maybe the only one that they know about, though. Because, again, it is a big galaxy.
Okay, it has been 30 years, and we know about a lot more of them, but they didn't in the 80s.
There you go.
So, coming from a perspective of the future, it's not like I have a lot less patience for him. Like, just look harder.
Sure. I mean, I lost a lot of patience for him when he sass talked Troy.
Yeah.
Like, I understand not wanting an empath to, like, be inside your brain. I get that. But, like, he was a sassy little shit.
Yeah, he's, there's, this is probably just me. But there's something about his energy, both times I watched it, that really reminded me of this. I don't know if people are going to get this reference, of the captain in Airplane.
I get the reference, yeah.
I don't like. I was, especially at the very beginning when he's talking about like the egg and the stellar matter, and I'm just like, am I the only one who feels like there's like a sexual tone to this?
I mean, a little bit. I refrained from saying some things. Like,
I see.
First of all, I should you got me started. I should put a content warning on this for things, but when Dr. Crusher is referring to being away for a year and like missing her son, and she says, "I missed about 2 inches of him."
Oh, Natalie.
I almost fucking lost it. And then there was another one too that I can't remember off the top of my head.
Well, you were already thinking of him as a penis, so
true.
Because of the uniform.
It was something the old man says when he's walking around with Wesley. I can't remember.
Yeah, there's just, I don't know. There was something very.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I get what they were going for, but there was something just a little odd about the dynamic of the two of them, like wandering around together. That I don't know. I don't quite know how to read this or how I feel about it.
That is a subject of many a young adult novel.
Yeah,
for sure.
Children having to learn correct boundaries around adults that they emphasize with too much.
Yeah, and it had a little bit of that feeling, and I was like, I don't think that's what they were going for, but I don't know. There's just something about the energy that the actor is bringing to that role.
For sure. And I don't think, I mean, even if I had been 40 as I am right now, but at the time this show aired, I don't think I would have really thought anything of
Yeah.
or much of the interaction with them. I think there's been a lot of a change in society over the last 30. Not that things were
I think
anyway.
that there was more, a little more innocence around the mentor mentee
Yes,
thing.
for sure.
Um,
That is an excellent way to say it. Thank you for saying it.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I'm gonna unless somebody else has something to add, I'm just gonna move us on right now.
You know,
move
that's
Well, I mean, moving on. Just one last thing about the stroll. I do think like Wesley has these nanites. Like that's the whole thing of this episode, right? Is that we come to find that the nanites for his school project are, I don't know why I laughed at school project. He's an ensign. Why is he still in fucking school? I don't get it. Anyway, or he's an acting officer, which I guess is ROTC. I just talked myself out of it. Never mind. It makes sense. Anyway, his school project is nanites, and he, they get loose in the ship. That's what's causing the first ship-wide malfunction in 80 years. I completely lost where I'm going. Let me see. Oh yeah, and so he's taking this fucking stroll with the doc after he was setting up traps in the bar and had the whole thing with Guinan, and then I think this is even after. I think this might be after he admits to his mother, or maybe it's before. I can't remember exactly now. But he goes on this. He knows that he's the cause of the issue, regardless, and he goes on this fucking stroll with the doctor to have this like little mentor-mentee like conversation. I'm like, dumbass. Like I get that's probably that's probably more editing and writing than like something I should subscribe to the character, but
yeah, I don't like.
it bothered me.
Yeah. I would say like I feel like, because I feel like, trying out about this, like I feel like Wesley's right, like screwing up and not wanting to admit it feels like a very classic kid trope, which like in some ways is fine, but I think the thing is that there's never like there's never any discussion of it afterwards. Like I feel like
he doesn't even chastised by Picard or anything.
Yeah, like I feel like if you're gonna play out that trope, it seems like there should have been some sort of scene where they're like, you've got to tell us what.
Yeah, like if this was like an episode of Full House, and
yeah, exactly.
DJ's science experiment was with termites was eating the house, there'd be a scene at the end where like cue musical sting, and well, I guess I learned you gotta not let termites loose. I don't know.
Or you've got to tell people when you let termites loose in the house. So, yeah, exactly. So yeah, no, I agree that it was like it's like if they're gonna play it that way, I feel like they didn't follow.
Yeah, they left a little bit on the table.
Didn't follow through. Yeah, on it
for sure. Since we are talking about Wesley again, real fast, and the uniform, we see he's standing in engineering, I think it is, with Geordi and Data. When the doctor comes in to shoot the nanites, which we'll get into in a second. But last comment on Wesley's uniform, but there's like popped collars in the back, like right over his butt, and that's also fucking hilarious to me. Like his butt cracks a total Chad.
Did not know
like the popped collars. Anyway. So yes, I noticed that when they were in the engineering room and the doctor comes in and shoots the gamma radiation at what is apparently the life support systems of the ship.
And it didn't mess anything else up. It just fixed the problem.
Oh, it messed up. That's why the bridge was filled with gas. Or like the...
Well, that was the reaction of the nanites.
Yeah,
it didn't damage the computer in any way.
Yeah, it was the nanites that caused the nitrogen.
I read something incorrectly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is funny that like he apparently radiated his computer and it didn't, or part of it, and it didn't.
Yeah.
Do something.
It's fine.
And like I feel like that also kind of got like swept under the rug. Like maybe just don't shoot anything in engineering would be a good.
I mean, it does seem like a place where you would want to be careful about that stuff.
Good idea.
But I mean,
they had to do something, and sometimes you have to quantum hand wave.
True.
To get people to just move on.
I mean, and it's possible that like the reason why they're I mean, and this is all sci-fi hand wavy stuff anyway, but like maybe I think like, maybe that was part of the reason why they were talking about using gamma radiation is because it was something that would affect the nanites but not affect the computer.
Which is weird because if their computer,
yeah,
as the dude that shoots him says later, they're just a bunch of, or at some point, there's just a bunch of computer chips. He's been to the planet, whatever, where they were manufactured, which I have a hard time believing that all computer chip manufacturing is localized to one planet. That just doesn't.
Oh God, what? How could
doesn't
that even
seem
be?
very smart or wise. I guess that's a little bit of an inference on my end and not necessarily expressly stated, but
it might have been just the nanites in particular. I think,
maybe,
but I don't know.
Yeah. I guess he does get addressed a little bit because Picard does threaten him in a very chilling Picard way. Like, if Picard told me that if anybody was harmed on the ship for an action that I did, and he was so calm about it, because it was like, if anybody's harmed on the ship, I'll have your head in front of those big fancy mucky mucks you were just talking about. And like the fact that he said it like so calmly made it way more terrifying than if he would have been yelling it and angry and stuff. Like, goodness. I do want to call out Worf too, because Worf always like he's the voice of reason. Like, if anybody is going to address one of the SOP issues that I have with the show, it's going to be Worf. And he's probably going to get ignored. Maybe not. It kind of depends. But I do love that he's there doing. I mean, and it makes perfect sense for the security officer to be thinking of that sort of stuff. I think he's as much as dirty as they did Yar. If we couldn't have Yar, I think Worf is an excellent security officer. I do love at the end we get a little button up with the Wesley Wunderkid thing and his mom being worried that he spends too much time studying and being an adult essentially. And I wish we would have gotten a closer shot on this like hip teen fashion from the future, because I love late 80s, early 90s doing future fashion. That's like, one of my earliest favorite movies was, and one it still is, Back to the Future. So that whole sort of the 80s imagining the future is just, I don't know. I always tend to love it. So I would have liked to see more of their future teen fashions. I feel like we skipped some good stuff in this episode. Is there something either of you would like to?
I mean, I don't know why. Like, because definitely, like, I don't know. Like, in some ways, like the Stubbs, the astrophysicist guy is such a minor character, but just kind of like the scene at the end with him and talking to the nanites via data and stuff. It I don't know. It made me think of something somebody said, tweeted. It was actually about the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, but it's like something I've thought about a lot, which is that it's always interesting to see who gets redemption arcs and who doesn't. And I don't know, I kind of felt that way very strongly, like whereas like at the end, like he gets to apologize and like his experiment goes off well. Like, I don't know, it was just sort of interesting to see like, oh, this guy, like, who's just been kind of an ass.
Yeah, kind of an ass. Shot the ship that he was like traveling on, risking everybody's lives.
Yeah, like everything still works out okay for him apparently. Like, I don't know, it was just,
I mean, Counselor Choi does lay some good shade upon the man too at one point in time. I can't remember exactly what she says, but it's like, damn, girl.
Oh, it's the there's nothing behind the carefully curated mask thing.
Oh yeah. Stretched something. I was like, going to eviscerate this man, lady. I respect that, but damn.
Also, show of hands, who thinks that kids will still be learning how to play baseball in 2000s?
Yes. I know. When he was like, I've seen all the plays in my head. I'm like, from what you just said, nobody's played this game. I don't know. It's an easy thing to pick on because, you know, it's not like they can pick on something from like the 2100s that happened and have all of us, you know.
It just felt like it just, I don't know, you know, as baseball in particular seems to be.
Oh, baseball was very 80s.
Yeah,
was
I mean,
very 80s.
Very 80s, yeah.
And it was a direct pointing back to his wunderkind status, like the hyper focus and.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm not saying like I. It's just funny though. Like it's one of those things that's funny 30 years later when baseball is definitely like of the major sports is probably the one that is hurting the most.
Yeah.
It'd only be funnier if you used like the XFL or something. Something like that.
It does feel a little stilted now. I'm sure it made sense at the time, but it doesn't really now.
Yeah.
Like, okay. Don't you have a fantasy team or something?
A fantasy blurt ball or I don't know, whatever. The future stuff. Moving on over to. Oh Lord, I said this was season 2, episode 2 on my tweet. I just saw that. Oops, season 3, episode 2, The Ensigns of Command. Which is pretty great. I love the whole thing with the little. I think it's interesting and kind of quaint and fun that there's like, and it makes sense too, that there's like a crew orchestra, I guess, or apparently multiple crew orchestras. Because Data talks about how there's a performance later with a different violin player. I don't know. I just think that's it's an interesting like look into a slice of a slice of life, because it makes sense that there would be one. I'd never thought about it until it showed up on screen. I think it's a little weird that O'Brien plays the cello. I would have thought he'd be more of a fiddle player. That's probably
don't stereotype.
I know it's probably, but I mean he just. In particular, like not just because of his heritage, but like I don't know.
He's very I get it. Even in Deep Space Nine, he's really not that kind of person.
Because
he's not a cello guy.
It would allow him to be more mercurial and like you know. Anyway, nothing wrong with the cello.
Yeah, he seems too high strung to be a cello player almost.
Yeah.
He always plays high-strung characters.
Well, in the way that he like, I made the comment like last season on the episode where he sauntered into like his workstation like he was smoking blunts in the fucking transporter room break room. I know he was. Like, that plays into it too.
I just off the bat, I feel like I should say I feel like I like this episode maybe more than it deserves, but there's just lots of little things in this episode that I really like.
I think it's a pretty good episode. Like I have
I love
issues with this episode. Yeah,
feeling validated by aliens. So having them so dependent on the letter of the treaty and just like having to cooperate, it just made me feel at home.
Yes. I love it when this is the sort of conflict that.
And yeah, it wasn't just literalism on their part. Yeah. It was actual like a cultural decision to be really precise when speaking to aliens on exactly what they've agreed to.
Yeah.
Because
which I mean makes a whole lot of sense, especially because that great little bit Counselor Troy has with she holds up the glass of coffee. I'm presuming it's coffee. And she says whatever the Betazoid word. I mean, we don't know what we know the Beta word Zoid she says because she says it, but we don't actually know what it means because she doesn't tell us. But it's like Picard gives out 2, maybe 3 examples, and she's like, could be those, could also be clear or hot or something. It's like it is like, and that's something that I've thought about too, with just like keeping it terrestrial with, how did somebody who learned English, how did English speaking people and French speaking people come together and learn? I don't know. It's a weird thing to contemplate. It's kind of like in that same realm for me, is like what I see as the color blue. Is that what you see as the color blue sort of thing? Like, do all sightings have the same idea of what blue is, or does what I see as blue somebody else sees as what I would consider red or something? I don't know. It's that whole interesting wheelhouse of human perception to me. Which, speaking of which, auditory ones, sensors.
Before that, I want to jump back to the
sure.
Real quick, when Crusher and Picard are talking to Data, that I really like this little nice moment that Crusher in particular has, where she says, like, the problem with being too excessively honest about your limitations is then you start to believe them. Like, I feel like that was like, I like that as a piece of advice. I just wanted to
that's an excellent
point that out.
Yeah. Excellent piece of advice. And then Picard's point of like, you should know and recognize them, and being honest with them is good, but also be mindful of who you're telling the things.
You don't have to broadcast them all the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, sensors.
Which is one of the first sort of, that was one of the things that keyed me in on Lower Decks, that there was like in jokes, was because somebody, I want to say it's the male lead whose name's escaping me right now, but I want to say somebody on that show. Yeah. Somebody on that show refers to them as sensors. And I was like, that's gotta be an inside joke for people that know Star Trek. And here it is in Next Generation. I think it's Worf that says sensors all the time. Which is delightful and ties into the whole, although Worf maybe learned English. I don't know if I should call it English or common in regards to Star Trek.
Sorry, there's one thing that occurred to me that I really liked from the last episode. I just want to mention real quick, is when Riker is escorting Stubbs up to the bridge, and he's like, "One hell of a way to make it into the history books."
No,
such a
when he's talking about being murdered by nanites, it would be like,
yeah, exactly.
That's the way into the history
line.
Yeah, that was good. Back to episode 2.
Yeah, sorry.
No, you're fine. They do this really nice exterior shot of the colony that they're trying to get people to leave. I don't know. It's just a sign of we're in the 3rd season. Apparently CBS and or Paramount had more faith in the show at this point in time, and we're seeing, a little bigger budget. So there's some nice matte painting and probably miniatures in there. Mm-hmm. Just really, even last episode too, I'm seeing like everything's got a facelift and is a little better.
Yeah, the digital video is a little softer.
Yeah. And I was talking about last season how they kept doing all these low shots shooting up, and we're seeing like plain blank ceilings, and now they have a very nice, it's actually fairly pretty ceiling in the bridge with like a skylight and a bunch of nice soft lighting around it. So is looking good. We are introduced to who apparently Hope was able to peg right off the bat without seeing any of my tweets as my love interest in this episode.
It's a game. You gotta do something.
Yeah. Smart lady in a cute practical outfit, and Betty Banks are always helpful too in getting me interested in ladies or Guy Fawkes, I guess.
one of the things I kind of like about this episode is that we have this this A plot, which is or yeah, I would say it's the A plot, but is it feels like, I mean, it's very much like a something out of a Western in a lot of ways. I feel like, and I like what they do with it, and that they, you know, they sort of subvert it by having them actually leave the settlement, as opposed to like standing up to, whoever they're taking it from wrongfully, probably.
Exactly. Yeah.
But that was like one of the things about this one that I like. But
well, I mean,
I really liked how long they held out on saying we don't want to do all that work again. Like,
yeah.
I like how they held on to their vanity a little bit throughout the 45
that
minutes.
Was nice.
Yeah,
also, I like in this episode, watching this episode in modern America is very interesting because, paraphrasing, but it's not that far off from where the leader says, I want to address the fake news that this android is laying out. So I like that, and I mean, tied directly into what you both were saying about the Western angle is a good one to put on it. I definitely see that. Yeah, I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. Yeah, I liked seeing that whole angle of it, and the fact that they did I'm terrible at catching names of characters for some reason when I watch this show. But
I don't remember it either.
Mackenzie, it's like Adrian, but it's spelled oddly.
Okay. So the Mackenzie lady that kisses Data, and who I suspect might be a little bit of a droid chaser. Just putting it out there.
I think there's no doubt that.
Yeah, she is very obviously attracted to him because he is a droid.
Yeah.
Which is fine as long as it's not only because he's a droid. Too, because I don't know.
It's hard to say. It's his advancements. Very advanced.
Very advanced.
I mean, she does.
Electronic brain.
She does bring it up several times.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How impressive he is.
I think like that was another little thing about this episode that I think. I mean, it was supposed to be like a foil for, the discussion at the beginning and at the end about Data having feelings, but it was sort of interesting to have this person like be so tipped to like, well, you're like as an android, you're like rational and you don't let goofy things like emotions get in your way, like, and it was sort of interesting to see like to have them have somebody who was like that tipped in the other direction, and sort of like thinking about that was interesting.
It is a nice juxtaposition, and especially flowing from the previous episode too, where the Dr. Barry Gibb Stubbs. There we go. Good Lord. He's making comments about how they're just machines, and I was waiting for somebody to like bring up like Data, but I don't think anybody really did. But to go from that episode where it wasn't directed at Data, but there was a character saying, "Well, they're just machines." Well, I guess in this episode too, the leader, the elected leader of the place says, "I didn't," when he cattle prods or whatever Data, and he shuts down. He says, "I didn't kill anybody. I shut down a machine," sort of thing.
Yeah.
It was nice to have the balance of, even if it's a total opposite in that it's in favor of instead of against, but it's fetishizing. It was still nice to have a counterpoint person that isn't, Picard or Riker or Geordi or full regular cast.
Mm-hmm.
And
someone can recognize his value right away rather than have to learn it.
For sure. Data has the awesome line when they're gathering everybody and says, "Do you consider your position too weak to withstand debate?" Which is a great way to call somebody out that doesn't want to debate you. Did I cut you off on something you wanted to say, Robin?
I mean, I don't know. I was just going to say that I can't quite remember the scene order, so that may have been after this anyway. But like one of the other little things I like about this episode, I mean, that's kind of fun to see. This sort of maybe picking up on something that Hope was talking about earlier, but it is fun to see Picard sort of like going into his stirring, high-flown rhetoric and it just falling completely flat.
Yeah.
I really sort of appreciated I think that's one of the things about this episode that I like is that it's very well written, like where you basically have like in some ways it feels like Data and Picard should be flipped as to where they are. That, you know, Data might have a slightly easier time relating to the Sheliak people and
for
but
sure.
It was fun to see like Picard when he, you know, attempts to kind of fall back on passionate rhetoric, like it just doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
Like
it was nice to see like a little rhetoric blocking there.
Yeah,
as it were.
Yeah.
And
where they're just like, nope, you're too emotional.
Yeah. And where I can like, it might have been, it would have been easier for them to be switched. And I don't think you would. I think you would agree on this that it made for a better story that they were where they were.
Oh, absolutely.
And the reasoning, the reasoning for Data going down was because there was like the atmosphere of the planet was supposedly deadly to humans, and then they talk about how like the way they hand wave is the right way to put it, because they say, oh, we found a way until we realized we could evolve. Like a third of the original crew died until we realized that we could evolve. Like it's not like what you can breathe, what your body needs to breathe to stay alive isn't like a choice.
Oh no, it was the atmosphere was full of a certain kind of radiation.
Yeah.
Oh, radiation.
And they did like some, you know, RNA stuff.
Okay, that makes sense.
Through injections.
They CRISPRed themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Because I feel like Crusher was like, it's possible. Like she was like, you can.
I am listening for when that sort of starts happening in sci-fi. That hasn't always been there. Like up until a certain point, it mostly is just, well, we just kept breeding.
Yeah.
So we had enough people that could deal with this planet. Whereas I think in the early 80s they start barely touching on just changing people's DNA.
Yeah, I mean, interesting, and interesting to ponder for a variety of reasons. I also wonder at what point I was kind of not expecting, but I was thinking there might be an avenue of them, like, let's say they couldn't find a way to get the people to agree to leave. I was kind of expecting there to be at least talk of an argument for saying that, like, these people are not that they're not human anymore, but they've you know, a stock human, I guess, for lack of a better phrase, can't survive on this planet. So if there's, you know, if there's a whole, I mean, there's 1,500 people living on there. At what point in time? It's the whole question. I mean, not the first person to ponder this. It's the whole, like, you have a wooden ship, right? And you replace parts over time. At what point in time is the ship a different thing after you've replaced X amount of things? You know, like what? It's not something that I have an answer for, and I don't think I would trust anybody that has an answer for it. At like what point in time you divert. Just messing with the genome and stuff means you're no longer talking about a human.
Yeah, that's been the subject of some pretty good books.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I'm thankfully far from the first person to think that, because holy shit, would be in trouble with the
I
technology.
think that question really started with like cyberpunk, cybernetics.
Absolutely, yeah.
And then has trended smaller and smaller as we have been more successful.
For sure. When it's no
so that
longer
more
the need
successful
for...
isn't really that successful yet.
Well,
we're getting there though.
Someday really gross things will be possible. I mean, there are good reasons that some of that science is being done, but I don't know. Anyway, let's see.
One of the little thing I like about this episode is that it's, I don't quite know how to put it, but like, it's fun to see. Fun or interesting to see both Riker and Picard stressed out, but it felt very much like where they felt very much like workplace bosses.
Mm-hmm. For sure,
yeah. Which was just kind of an interesting side to see from them, where like, Data contacts Riker and Riker's like, figure it out.
I was going to bring that one up. Yeah.
Or like Picard walking into the transport room and they're like, how's it going? He's like, how's it going? About as well you expect. Great. And he just leaves.
Yeah. That reminds me of another. I loved that they were showing like the failed attempts to teleport.
I had a moment where I just had this uncontrollable urge to like want to go back in time and become a prop maker. I don't want to do it now. I'm too tired. Just like
maybe tomorrow.
That makes me want to have made props.
Yeah.
It's just like, here's your task. Make 6 of these, like falling more and more apart.
Yeah. Make one that's kind of melted with some slag on the bottom. No, I loved seeing that.
Yeah. One of the things I like about these episodes, or any show that has a regular crew that's really tight, is when they have other crowds. So you get to see like people do slow things in faster time, like where they were having their organizing going on, and you like the single episode time frame means that they're like shifting loyalties really fast and in kind of obvious ways, like that the secondary guy with the white t-shirt just sort of actually like moving his body really physically to like indicate that like maybe he was in doubt of the leadership capabilities of this other guy, and then switching back a few moments later for a compelling argument. I like the shorthand of that.
Yeah, it can be done when it's done well. Like I agree. I think it was done well in this episode. It's
the artificiality of only having it be less than 10 people, and like adds to this is a really obvious message, just read it.
Yeah, I agree. Because there's been episodes where they've had similar sort of needs and it wasn't executed as well. I mean, I don't know if that's acting, writing, or whatever. There's tons of moving parts that it could be. But then again, like to that point in Robin saying that they liked this episode, I like, it's a solid episode. I wasn't like gobsmacked by it enough to be like, oh, it's one of my favorite episodes ever, but it's definitely solid, good writing. I like the
we were coming off a clip episode too, so
true. That's true. The bar was
the standard was low.
But like the Troy's used very well in this episode. Yeah, I mean, it's just altogether good. I just saw the tweet. I love that Data's reboot sequence includes like a little hand drive, because he does like a little like moving the fingers like back and forth to test out. I don't know.
Brent Spiner does what he does.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah, like I don't know. As I said, like it's not even like I don't think this would definitely be one of my favorite episodes, but I just feel like there are moments in this episode where you see interesting sides of some of the characters' personalities, and kind of like one of those is like when at the very end when the Sheliak are hailing the Enterprise and Picard is being like really petty. I mean, just
Oh,
but it's
it's
delightful.
such a joy. It feels so good to be that petty.
It's like he was on the Elcars looking up like videos on how to nag or something. Yeah.
But yeah, just like I just feel like there's like lots of little moments in that kind, like in this episode, which is I think why I like it more than I think, like as I said, like I feel like it's like it's not one of the best TNG episodes, but maybe what Hope is saying, like coming after so quickly after the clip show episode, it maybe it just it reminds me of all these little things. It has them all in it, and like, oh yeah, this is why TNG is great. Even like the kind of B+ episodes are.
Yeah, I mean, I very much enjoyed the first 2 seasons. Going through them was a lot of fun, but this, I know we're only 2 episodes in, but with the increased like production value and stuff, and like the writing on, because the writing in last episode was solid too. Like there wasn't, I haven't had as many SOP issues and stuff like that. So I'm starting to see now, and I was also Rick Bear tweeted on the first thread that you're getting into the good stuff now, and it's it definitely seems like it. Like it seems these 2 episodes seemed very confident from top to bottom. Like everybody involved knew what they were doing, except for maybe whoever decided to add the popped collars over Wesley's butt. Which even then, I mean, I wear a t-shirt and jeans most days, so what stones can I really throw at the fashion house?
You wear jeans most days? Wow, aren't you fancy?
I know.
Oh yeah, the other thing I thought about, and I feel like I should keep a list because I'm forgetting some of their names, but I feel like Mackenzie, the Adrienne Mackenzie, or however I can't remember how to pronounce her first name.
I didn't even know what her name was, so you're ahead of me.
I feel like is the second or third like science lady they've found on a planet and just kind of left, and you're like, why are you like signing her up for Starfleet?
Yeah. She can survive.
It just seemed
radiation.
like I don't know, like I feel like it's something that's happened before, where it's like there's been like a woman who's like been very
that man's daughter.
Oh yeah, that was on the
Oh, the worst heterosexual flirting ever with Riker and the not Irish but Irish lady. Is that what you're talking about, or somebody else?
No, on the planet where the old man died, but he took over Data.
Oh yes. Yeah.
Sorry, it took my mind actually to get to that detail a long time.
Yeah, no, that's who I was thinking of. Where it's like, why? I don't know. I mean, and presumably the transport ships are coming out, so it's not like this is going to be her last contact with Starfleet. But again, it just was like, I don't know. It seems like maybe she might want to like do something else besides live on
a desert planet.
Yeah,
live on a desert planet.
Yeah, she definitely seemed to want to be
and
around.
long for androids.
Is it long for androids? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, or the kid. I mean, I know that was a slightly different one, but the orange alien girl that
Oh, with
on
the
the
weird,
Oh
they
yeah.
did the weird voice effects on.
yeah, exactly. Where again, it's like you built an interstellar radio. It seems like
Yeah.
I don't know.
But again, I mean, how thick is if how thick is the universe with super smart people in the future? Or not, I mean, not even super smart, just well educated and learned people, I guess.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's just I don't know. I don't know. It partially made me again think about like something that Hope has brought up. Where like the Wesleys of the universe like have this pipeline to becoming Starfleet Academy, but there's all these other people out there who might be
Yeah.
For sure.
just as qualified. That I don't know. Seems like there could be
Nepotism,
more
baby.
active recruiting going on. I guess is what I'm
Yeah.
maybe getting at.
They've also said that like Starfleet has like it's hard to get into Starfleet too, so apparently they have no shortage either.
Oh yeah, no, I don't
But-
think they have a shortage, but like I
Yeah.
feel like maybe there could be more active recruiting in like these out of the way places.
Yeah.
I don't know. Just
I
a weird
agree.
thought.
I know it's maybe weird or not. I'm not going to judge on that, but it is a good one to ponder, and we've left a lot of promising young or older minds on different planets as we traverse the galaxy. But we are over.
You in particular, Natalie, have done that.
Me and yes, I guilty as charged. We are over the magic hour that I like to do. Gasp the horror. But do either of you want to button up anything on this episode or the first one we talked about?
No, I'm good.
Yeah, I just thought I liked the button on the second episode.
Yeah, Data and Picard is a cute one. You are creative. You mash these two disparate styles of violin together. For sure, it was a nice little sweet little button. But that will do it for us for this week. We're back at it. Next week is going to be season 3, episodes 3 and 4. Gates is back. Well, Dr. Crush is back. We're talking about the Borg. Things are looking good. But we will see you next week. Okay, bye-bye.